What's up, guys? Kevin from TK's Garage 405 here. Having trouble keeping up with videos here. We're so busy with our house. Finally got some we actually got our flooring through our entire house there. Posted a little video on Instagram about that. And then we actually starting to put baseboards and framing around the doors and stuff, so it's coming along. Still need all the cheap stuff like a furnace, central air, new breaker panel, power out to the main pole, entire kitchen, you know. But we got a fridge now. That's a start. Well, anyways, I posted a couple of videos mostly on Instagram and Facebook there about using Rotella and using Lucas oil stabilizer. And man, it was like crazy amount of people were like either like 100% for it or 100% against it. So I've run Rotella 1540 and like, I mean, unless it was on warranty, basically the bulk of my vehicles for as long as I can remember. And I learned when I was younger, or, you know, whatever. I don't remember who was doing it or whatever, how I started doing it, but basically kind of people thought that they made the engines last longer and things like that, and so I just started running it, and they claim it's the extra additives and stuff. And so I posted a video, and man, there's a couple people that are like very like, well, this is why you can't, and this is the specs of it, and this and that. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and argue about like whatever, like they're saying that it foams up at a certain RPM and it's like you can't run it in gas because of that, and there's a whole bunch of little things that they're kind of saying, but that was the bulk of it. And I find it kind of interesting, like if you watch any of like Big Chief's videos, for example, they're running it in their small block Gen 1 whatever small block, I don't even know what it is in that car right now, I forget, but it's like the Caddy Jack car. I mean, he's putting Rotella 1540 in it, and they're running that thing to like what, 9,000 RPM or something stupid like that. Makes like 900 horse on the motor, so they seem to be doing just fine with it. I don't know if it was foaming, it's going to be wrecking things, what the problem is. I see lots of car show guys doing it, like, or car, you know, whatever, car people, whatever. I see, like, you look on, I mean, I see it all over the place. One of the places I commented was on the Thunderhead page there, which is a big lawnmower carb guy on his Maverick there, whatever. But he said he runs it and everything too. He's like, man, this is the reason I believe that my stuff lasts so long. He's like, I run 1540 with some Lucas oil stabilizer, which is literally exactly what I do. Like, I don't run the stabilizer and everything, mostly in my higher mileage stuff. I originally started running the stabilizer as I actually was running the leak stopper, which I feel like I think all the Lucas stuff is the same. I don't know if there is something different in them. I've never really looked into it that much, but I put it in originally because of I was trying to get the leak to stop on a diesel that I had and stuff there. And I just kept running it. It actually did help. It helped quite a bit or whatever. And then I just started running the stabilizer. I was like, oh, let's try the stabilizer. And so I never had any problems with it. I mean, I've had it in a whole pile of vehicles, whatever. So how I do it is I drain the oil, I top it back up with 1540. So like the truck I'm driving now, this is the 15 Silverado 2500. This thing has like 374,000 miles on it now. It's original engine, never had lifters, never had anything like that. No, that's not true. It had a cam, I think it had a cam at one point. Something, I'd have to look back 30 seats, but it was like way early in its life. Like it was almost a brand new truck when that happened. So some whatever premature failure there anyways, but anyways, yeah, so it's got 274,000 miles on it. So I fill it up. I actually run these, I've always run these LS motors a quart over. You can disagree with me or agree or whatever, that's just how I've always done it. It's kind of been a couple of people that were friends with me, or actual mechanics, they said like that tends to help these. They have like some oil starvation issues, whatever, when they get sloshing around or whatever. I don't think on a truck like I'm driving right now, where it's not really getting beaten on and stuff, maybe it's not as big of a deal, but it's it's not going to hurt to me, I don't think, to run it a quart over, and that's how I've always done it. And I've had a bunch of LS stuff and never had a problem. So I fill it up to the cover. Like this truck holds 6 quarts. I put 6 quarts of 1540 in it. I start it up, let it build up pressure, and then I add a quart of Lucas after it's been running. So I roughly a quart, maybe probably a little less even, maybe like half a quart, 3/4 quart, something like that. So I add that to it, and then I do it while it's running, so it doesn't just go straight to the bottom or whatever, and it mixes in, and then the engine's hot or whatever, right? So, and that's how I've always done it. Like I said, I never have had any issues with it that way and stuff. I'm not recommending people do it. I mean, a lot of the old school guys will say that they run Rotella and all their stuff, you know, Gen 1 guys, whatever, right? They claim it was the best thing. A lot of guys, like I've broken in engines with it. The 400 that I built, that's my Camaro, I built that thing in 2000. It got broke in with 1540 Rotella back then. Had assembly lube obviously and stuff, but you know, I broke it in with that, and I totally abused that thing for, I mean, like whatever it was, 17 years or something before I finally popped a hole in a piston in the first round there. I mean, hundreds of drag strip passes and racing and driving it all over the place as a daily driver, and I finally, the reason that happened was just something to do with, like, I switched heads and it had too much compression and probably just a little bit of not perfect fuel and whatever, but anyways, so had nothing to do with the oil. So I don't know, I'm a pretty big believer in Rotella. Like I said, if you know Luke from the Thunderhead page there, I don't know him personally, obviously, but I mean, he swears by it. He said that's what he thinks keeps all his stuff running. Again, I'm not telling anybody to do it. I've run it and everything. I've had it in 6 liters, 5.3s. I've run it even, like, I mean, my son runs it and all his stuff. We run it in our square bodies. Like, I mean, at a minimum, maybe you could switch it to 1030 or something like that. Everybody believes that's a massive change to go from, you know, like a 10 weight to a 15 weight or whatever. It's not. It's negligible, but again, opinion, whatever. I'm not going to argue about it, but I've taken a bunch of courses over the years with different oil companies and stuff, and kind of tested that all out and whatever. So most people don't even know what the 1540 or the 1030 or whatever even stand for. So yeah, so I run that and everything. I think I've tried one time a long time ago. I've tried it a couple times actually, because I actually tried the Rotella synthetic, whatever it is, T5 I think it was. I tried that actually in a diesel that had just, I think it was for cold starting, because I sometimes park in places in the winter time or whatever with that truck that was doing that, and then it was like kind of hard starting, so I tried it and it was like, man, every orifice on that truck started leaking after that, and I know it's because probably the seals were just plugged up with the old oil and things like that, so that was kind of. And I did try it in another engine in Gen 1 small block years ago and stuff, and same thing. Kind of started leaking and stuff, whatever, so I just kind of stayed away from synthetic stuff. So I'm not saying, again, there's anything wrong with it. I actually ran AMSOIL for a lot of years there. A lot of people hate AMSOIL, a lot of people love AMSOIL. I don't really have an opinion on it either way. I was actually running, so I was putting so many miles for the longest time there, and I was running like they have their high mileage, like 25,000 mile interval stuff, and then you're supposed to run it with their special filter and stuff, and I actually don't think the oil was that bad, but I almost felt like maybe their filter was too tight, because it just seemed like it didn't quite run the same and stuff, and so I don't know. I don't say I would recommend running 25,000 miles in oil change and stuff. Another thing is what I really believe in, and I've seen this way more times than I can count now. I never really thought anything of it. I thought it was like, whatever. Just some of the old school guys run it in higher mile stuff or whatever. This 1540 Rotella. Not that long ago, I stopped to get a tire fix at a tire shop, and there was an old guy there, and he said he had a 5.3 truck or whatever, and he's like, he put 1540 Rotella in it, and everybody was like, oh, that's the dumbest thing ever, you're gonna wreck that thing, the lifter's gonna go out of it, and blah blah blah, right? And everybody claims that the LS motors are so bad for lifters, like obviously it's the displacement on demand stuff, right? So 5.3s, 6.2s, whatever. Well, his truck had 480 or 70,000 miles, or like high 400s anyways. And he's like, everybody else that was telling me that it was such a dumb idea, their trucks are pretty much in the ground and mine's working totally fine. So obviously they weren't right about that. So, and I've met a bunch of people like that that have said the same thing. I'm not talking scientifically. I'm just saying this is just daily people that I'm just talking to and stuff, and just my personal experience. But said, I'm not necessarily going to recommend that you do it or whatever. No, whatever, run what you want. I feel like today's engines, the oils are too thin, and I think that's what a lot of the problems is. And I really believe that's what a lot of the problem with the LS engines are, is they run the intervals way too long for oil changes, because people just look at the gauge and it's like, oh, okay, well, if you're not really towing, because it's all based on a bunch of different things, right? If it's running hot, if you're towing, if you're revving, if you're whatever, right? So, I mean, there's people that are running like 8,000 miles before their change oil light comes on. Well, that is way too much in my opinion. Like 8,000 miles on regular, probably 0-20 oil is what most of the vehicles are running these days. Like, that is a lot of miles to run an oil change. Like, I've always believed, like, oil's cheap, engines aren't, so I change it way more often, right? Like, I don't as much on this truck, because I actually feel like the 1540 Rotella runs longer. It's a diesel oil, and diesel oils are meant to run longer, but I usually will either change it before the light or whatever, but it doesn't run as long as the truck because I'm towing with it normally. So, it's probably, I don't know. I prefer to always kind of change it around, like, 3,000-4,000 miles. I have run it a little bit more sometimes, but for the most part, I try to change it. I've said I'd rather change it more often than not, but sometimes, I've had it probably where I've ran double or whatever, but I don't obviously try to make a practice of that. It's a truck that I want to last or whatever, so. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious what everybody thinks there. If everybody else is running Rotella, man, I sure talk to a lot of people these days that seem to run it, and then of course everybody reads something on the internet and then they're like, oh, well, the internet said this and the internet said that. Well, whatever, each to their own. I'm not telling you what to do. You do you. It works for me, works in all my vehicles. That even in the cold weather and stuff, I ran it up in Canada, never had any problems with it. So again, if it was on warranty or something like that, that would be a different scenario. I had a 3-liter mini Duramax or whatever, and I just ran the spec oil in it because and it did have a lot of problems. And so if something major would have gone wrong, oil based, then I would have had to deal with, like, oh, well, you were putting like 1540 in it or whatever. So I just ran the factory oil weight in that thing and stuff. But for my other vehicles that are on warranty, I did it that way too. But pretty much anything that's off warranty, that's what it's getting. I would like to actually try it on like a new, like almost like buy like a new, that everybody complains about, the lifters in a 5.3 can't make it, like, they can't make it, like, everybody's saying, oh, 60,000 miles, they're pretty much going, the lifters are going on them. That's like pretty much the general consensus these days. Like, I don't understand how that's possible. I've had a bunch of 5.3s and I've never had that happen, so it's not adding up to me anymore. So I would actually be curious, like, I almost want to buy a new one and start right from the get-go of running just 1540 Rotella in it and just run it, because we put tons of miles on our vehicles still. I would almost like to just run one from brand new and really see, like, hey, well, how come this one's going, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be like, oh, okay, well, it still has the same problem. But, I really feel like the way longer oil change intervals and just the light weight that they're using is causing all these lifter issues. I don't know. I know the government forces all this displacement on demand stuff and very well timing and whatever, right? So it's not really 100% of the manufacturer's fault. Sometimes I get railing on, I'm not, I've run GM stuff for most of my life. That's what I've always had. I don't have really a problem with any other brands either, but it's just, I don't feel like the customer service is good in those, in any of these guys these days. So, everything's okay until you have problems generally, right? And so when you start having problems, that's when you see how good your dealers are, but or how good they can figure things out. So people kind of get rattled up if I say something like dealers have such a hard time diagnosing these new vehicles with all the freaking technology in them now, which you can't really blame them. They probably don't get trained to the max or whatever, and unless you're super interested in probably a lot of these techs probably just don't really care, right? So, but like I said, whatever, that's irrelevant. I would be curious to see somebody else running it and seeing what they're getting out of it. I saw, it was a while ago there on Hoovie's garage or whatever, they had bought this 1,000,000-mile, or he was like, had like 970, or no, sorry, 996,000 miles with no blow-by on supposedly the original engine in this I think it was like a 2006 Cummins. And he said something when he first bought it about what he saw something at a trade show, this guy that had originally bought it brand new, and he saw something at this trade show, this additive that they put in it, and they ran this engine with no oil in it after putting this additive, and supposedly they ran this engine for like 3 or 4 days, and nothing even went wrong with it, with no oil in it. So I can't remember what he said it was. I'll have to go back and watch that video, but you know, maybe there's a little science to some of this stuff. I know a guy that sunk a freaking little mini truck in a lake years ago, in the ocean actually, years ago, and they pulled it out, and he had Z-Max in it, and they just flushed it all out, fired it back up, and he drove it for years to come until it finally rusted off the body or whatever. But there's definitely some things out there that I think are good things. I know Hot Shots, if anybody remembers the Hot Shots stuff, Ford actually, like, that's how Hot Shots, I believe, got bigger, because Ford actually contracted them, called them out and was like, hey man, we're having all these recalls with these 6-liter Fords. What can you do about this to help us out? And so they, whatever, I don't know if they used the same formula they had or it was something different or whatever, but they basically started running it because they were getting some crazy amount of claims, like millions of dollars in warranty claims a month from the 6-liter Ford. And so they started running this Hot Shot stuff, and I guess that was like definitely a huge help on that. So I don't know if anybody remembers that. I think they were talking it on Stacey David Gears. At one point there, it was on his show, if I remember right, or whatever. So, but I think there's definitely some quality products out there, whatever. Like I said, I'm not just saying it's like Rotella. I like Rotella. It works for what I use it for, I feel like. So maybe other people think it's not the greatest, whatever. But yeah, if you guys have any opinions on it, I'm actually kind of curious here to have a conversation with people about it, because like I said, I posted a couple of videos. One was like pouring the Lucas in, and everybody's like, oh man, that thing's gonna break your rods, and it's gonna plug, it's gonna break everything in the engine pretty much. Was that was like 80 to 90% of people were saying that. It's like, dude, this has been in there forever. Like, this truck has 370,000 miles, and it's been in there since almost new. Hasn't caused any problems yet, and it's been in a bunch of other vehicles I've had without any issues. So obviously that was not correct, but man, it got a lot of people riled up. So I'm really curious to see, like I said, what the actual conversation about this was. Whatever, I don't care if it's your opinion or something you've done or whatever, just kind of curious to see who else is kind of running this out there and stuff. And said, I think it's more common with like the old school guys. That was kind of a common thing, a higher mileage, you throw this in it. But yeah, all right guys, well, I'm heading home here in the rain today, so I'm gonna probably check out for now, but make sure you like and subscribe me there. Really want to get back working on some vehicles here. We actually took our trucks out for a cruise 2 days ago. We went to Heavener, Oklahoma with them. Took our 2 green trucks out. I didn't really record anything because it was dark out there, but we went and saw the holiday train. It's the Canadian Pacific holiday train. They go all the way from Canada all the way through the US and stuff. And I actually always wanted to see it in Canada, but every time it was up there, it was always like minus 35, or I was working or something like that. So it was like super nice out there, and a couple pretty good artists and stuff. But yeah, we cruised out there. It was, I guess, like 100 miles there and back. We both cruised out there. I'll make a video of my son's truck one day there, kind of show you guys that thing there. He was having some issues, but I think we got him resolved now. So yeah, might have to do some work with mine pretty soon, because he's starting to catch up with how fast it is. So he's got headers too, so he could probably be almost exactly the same if you put those in there. Yeah, like and subscribe, guys. Let me know what you think. If you guys, anybody's running any like Rotella or maybe different additives that I've never heard of, or I'm curious to see, maybe anybody has seen or knows what happened with that Hoovie's garage truck that had almost 1 million miles. I I didn't finish watching all his videos yet, but I've been kind of slowly watching them here and there, and that was one of the videos I was at. But I'm curious if that truck is still on the road, because it literally had no blow by. He put the cap on it and was like sitting there just completely still. It was crazy for that amount of miles, because every Cummins I've ever had, or Cummins I should say, I've ever had, has always had like massive blow by, or at least some blow by, right? It's like, even with the lower mile stuff, like the last truck I had under 200,000 miles in that, like when I bought it already. So yeah, but anyways, cutting off for now, guys. I'm gonna head home and go work on some more house stuff here. Like, subscribe, talk to you next time. Thanks.